Hey guys, what's up? Matty from Sales Sniper, and this is just a little bit about me, right? So I grew up in the States, but I was born in Australia, hence why I have this weird, like, hybrid, shitty accent thing going on. Americans think I sound Australian, Australians think I sound American. I have no home, people. I have no home. What do I like? What do I like to do? I like selling. I enjoy that a lot. I love working in small team environments, and so that's kind of what motivates me to do the things that I do within Sales Sniper, and to build the kind of culture that we've built and all that kind of good stuff, because before I was in the Army, but we'll go through that at a different time, but I really enjoyed working in like highly motivated small teams of really motivated people who were driven towards a singular purpose, right? And so that for me is really what gets me up in the morning. Like making sales, making money, doing all that kind of stuff is fun and it's great and everything. But the real driver is like getting to be a part of like a team of rock stars is really fun, right? That's why the SF environment was so attractive. That's why the environment that we've managed to create here is so attractive to me as well. I have the kids, right? So I don't have that many hobbies. I used to kite surf a lot. I would do that literally every single day. But now, like I have 2 kids, they're both under 5.
Can I talk into it?
Yeah.
Dumbhead.
There's just no time for it, right? Plus we got the business, we got 100 and something staff or whatever it is. So it's like, it just gets a little bit hard. But what I do is I do jiu-jitsu. So jiu-jitsu twice a week. I'm still a lowly white belt, but I did wrestle for 8 years, so I'm not a terrible white belt, but I'm not a good one either, right? So I still get strangled by people all the time. Hope to get my blue belt at some stage this year, which will be really fun. Shout out to Raf, who's my coach. And then I really love doing things like content. Kind of the two like vices that I have in terms of spending money is cameras and watches. And shoes as well. So cameras, watches, and shoes. I like Rolexes and Breitlings. I like Sony cameras. And I like Louis Vuitton sneakers, unfortunately. That's a really bad thing to like. But I do, I like them, and I'm unabashedly happy the fact that I do. And the fact that I have an opportunity to actually buy them. I'm not wearing them today, I'm wearing Nike Air Force Ones.
I am the founder of Sales Sniper, and I am the chairman, because that sounded like a fun title to give myself. I have nothing to do with the day-to-day, essentially. I do some high-level sales calls. I do some consulting work with some of our clients and some people who want that sort of thing on fixing sales processes and whatnot. But essentially what I do is I just help the team, like the senior management team, to fix issues that they are not sure how to fix, or they're not sure how to fix it in a way that is in alignment with the greater vision of the company as a whole and the direction that we're going over the next 2, 3, and 5 years. I try and be really transparent with my plans within the company that me and James have about, like, you know, what our goals and aspirations are, so that the management team has a much better context, as well as mentoring and training salespeople. So essentially, my role is just, I guess, a problem solver and a mentor to all the people within Sales Sniper.
I actually was going to go to university. I have a distinct memory when 9/11 happened. I was living in the US. I remember having this like, oh man, this is pretty shitty, because I remember watching it all happen live on TV and stuff like that. I remember I was in English class when the second tower got hit. That kind of like sparked a real interest in the military for me, because I was like, these people, you know, like an angry kid and stuff like that. And I remember going to university, and I got accepted into like lots of very good universities. Like I got accepted to Duke, I got accepted to University of Miami, like really prestigious universities. They were also really expensive. And my plan was to do medicine, but I knew I could do my first 2 years at community college, save a ton of money for my parents, you know what I mean? It was no different. So I was like, listen, I'll just do my first 2 years at community college and then I'll transition over, because my grades were so good anyway, it didn't really matter. And I'd finished most of my first year of university in high school through like an advanced placement course. So I was like, yeah, I'll just do that. And then like I went to university and I was like, oh, like I hate this. It wasn't structured in a way that was beneficial to me. And I just started thinking, man, I really want to join the military. So I went to the US Marine Corps. I went all the way through, got accepted into the direct recruiting scheme for Marine Force Recon, now MARSOC, which is a direct pathway into special operations, right? Got accepted, and just before I signed, a friend of mine from the SAS called and was like, hey man, don't do that, come over here. There's now a new capability being raised in Australia, which is a very similar capability to Marine Force Recon. I think you'd really like it, the pay is better, You'll still get deployed, but you'll get deployed less often, but you'll have much better pay, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, okay. And at the time, the US demanded that you give up citizenship of any foreign country to join the military. Now, I didn't know it was like Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy.
I declare bankruptcy!
I declare bankruptcy, right? Like, it's not real. You can't give up citizenship. Like you can't give it up just by handing your passport in and signing a paper with the US government. Like, Australia recognizes you as a natural born citizen, right? So I didn't know that. I was 18 years old. So I was like, man, I don't want to give up. I don't want to have to go through customs to go see my family. So I was like, well, I won't do that. I'll come and join over here. Moved to Australia and joined the Australian military in a direct recruiting to special forces scheme they had there. You just have to pass certain aptitude tests, right? It wasn't very difficult. Went through there and then went into the military. I saw a photo when I was about 18 or 19 of a guy hanging off a building wearing all black with an MP5, sort of like being cool as fuck on the side of a building. And I took that to the recruiter in Australia and I was like, how do I be this guy? All right. Right. And he was like, oh, that's tag. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll be that guy, please. Like, they were like, well, it doesn't really work like that. So then from there, I went to my selection course. Selection course was super interesting. I used to have quite a polarizing personality. Maybe I still do today. I think I'm a bit more chilled out, but I still had a very strong American accent, so I stuck out a lot. Sticking out is not something that you want to do when you're going through Special Forces selection, because you kind of want to be able to blend in. I didn't blend in, right? So those were tough for me, just because I was always being watched because I was different, right? Which is fine. It ended up, I think, being an advantage of mine, because I had to do much better, I think, than some people did. Anyway, got through those, ended up doing quite well in the reinforcement courses. I got injured partway through that, so that kind of slowed my progression down, and then my entire company got deployed while I stayed back. But it meant that, like, I was here and I just got thrown on every course imaginable. So over the course of like the next year, I did all these courses that like no one else had done and had access to, and I was like shipped all over to do these courses. So by the time it was end, I was like this most super qualified up super soldier dude, just because I just had loads of like weird qualifications. Then from there, I got deployed in a recon element into Indonesia and did some really cool stuff. You can look it up, Battle of Same. You can Wikipedia that if you want. Did some fun things, got to like, you know, fast rope onto boats and shoot engine blocks out of moving cars and stuff like that. Came back then from there, like went straight into sniper course, because I'd done recon and I had done a bunch of other stuff. I didn't necessarily want to be in snipers because I was quite happy where I was. And we were doing shooting at the range one day, and snipers were down one end and we were down this end. And I was a pretty decent shot. And one of the head snipers comes down and goes, "That's a pretty good group, man." I was like, "Oh, thanks, dude." He's like, "What's your name?" And I was like, "Oh, Matt, yada, yada, yada." And he goes, "Okay." The next day, right? They go, "Hey, Matt, you're on sniper course next week." I was like, "Nah, I didn't apply for that." They go, "Yes, doesn't matter, bro. That's what you're doing." Right? So he had gone, "Hey, this guy's a good shot. He's recon qualified. This is a pretty easy pathway to get another sniper." So I was like, oh, I guess that's what I'm doing now. Then got deployed to Afghanistan in like a recon sniping role. So I was still in recon because the sniper platoon was already, the sniper team was already manned. So I got sent as like the lead marksman in a recon platoon. So I had like a marksman rifle, which is the one that you might have seen. I then came back and went on to TAG, which is I was sniper in TAG, which is that guy in all black. And then we got to do a whole bunch of cool stuff all around Australia, doing domestic counterterrorism shit. And there's a bunch of other stuff in between there that's neither here nor there. I got hit by a car and I got quite badly injured. I was injured in Afghanistan pretty badly. I was in some car accidents and some rollovers and stuff like that. Nearly died, well, a couple times, but the one that was really, really close was I was going up this hill on an ATV, and then it was really steep, and I had a machine gun on the back of my ATV, so it started to kind of lift off as I was coming up, so I was like, shit. And then I was like, okay, I'll stop, and then I'll like neutral it back down, and it was really steep and it was very rocky. And then I like lost control on the way down, and it just slid backwards, and then it hit a rock and it flipped like that. And so I got flipped, and then but there was a little like a little dip in the ground that my body went into, and the rest of the thing came on top, and the machine gun came down, broke in half, right? So that's the force, and then it cracked my helmet. that I was wearing, but I was knocked out, but I was fine. I should have been super dead. Super dead. Like if that ground was that much like higher, I was dead, because I was literally put into like this little hole, essentially. But anyway, I was knocked out for a while, and at that, a few other back injuries in training. I was hit in the back with a riot baton and a few other things like that. So I had some injuries, and then when I was hit by a car, that didn't help the fact. So that kind of like facilitated me thinking, I don't know if I really want to keep doing this. I have a big scar over there. So I've had like ankles and knees and back and shoulder. So I was like, oh man, I'm like 25, 26 years old. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be doing this for very much longer. Because I was injured, I got to like sit in a lot of the management stuff. And I'd sort of made a decision that I wasn't gonna be like a lifer. When I was in Afghanistan in 2008, there was a guy and his first child was being born while we were over there. And he was on the sat phone to his wife while she was giving birth. And I remember looking over and I was like, oh, I'm never gonna be that guy. I was like, that seems like, I mean, good on him, like whatever. But I was like, that seems kind of shitty. So I was like, I want to do that. So I was like, I need to just figure out what I want out of this and then get out. And then when I got injured and I saw some of, just for lack of a better term, the fucking boobery that went on in the hierarchy, because no one ever taught them how to manage people. The way the military works is similar to politics, and this might get me in trouble. I don't really give a fuck, to be honest. It's not the best people who are at the top. Most of the best people leave because they feel creatively stifled in an environment like that. So what you get at the upper ranks is just people who never fucking left. Right? So it's like a war of attrition, similar to politicians, right? The best politicians get offered private contracts to sit on the boards of companies because they're creative and they have connections, and they get offered $5 million a year to work 14 hours a month, and they leave, right? So like then all you end up is the cream of the crap, the guys who, the law of attrition, right? The guys who stuck around the longest, So, which is why like high-level business owners like are much better problem solvers and outside the box thinkers, and would be much better politicians than what politicians are. But they don't want to be because there's no money in it, or at least there shouldn't be. Right? If you get rich being a politician, what are you doing? Sidebar. So yeah, so when I kind of saw what was happening, I saw like the lack of management and the lack of like problem solving ability. Like I was like, oh, this doesn't feel like the place for me. And so I put in my discharge, and I didn't have any backup plan. I had some money in the bank because you get paid pretty well when you're in deployment, especially if you're a sniper and yada, yada, yada. So I just went traveling for like a year. I got the Army to pay for my personal training course because I was like, well, I don't have any qualifications, none, zero. Being able to make explosives, shoot people at long range, and successfully do an arterial tie-off is not like a really, really good CV, right? For anything outside of private contracting, which I didn't want to do. And I was offered some private contracting gigs, but I said, which is really good money. You're looking at like, $1,000 a day, US, tax-free, maybe even $2,000 a day back then. I said no, because I just didn't want to have my gun in my hand for the rest of my life. And I knew if I went down that path, it's a hard path to get out of. Did my personal training course. That's where I met my wife. Day one, they said, introduce yourself. I stood up and said, hi, my name is Matt. I'm a Special Forces sniper. And yes, ladies, I am single. Right? That was the opening line that I did. My wife likes that kind of arrogance and confidence, I guess you'll say. And we pretty much got together day 3 of that course, and we've been together for 12 years. And then from there, became a personal trainer. Studied under a friend of mine who was a really gifted personal trainer named Cato. Decided to open up my own gym because I thought that seemed like a logical next step. Yeah, and then that ensued. Not sure if everybody knows where Sales Sniper came. So I used to own or be a part owner in a chain of gyms, and then I owned 2 gyms at one point, and then a gym anyway, like independently as well. Now my business partner and I decided to go into this chain of gyms together. He would run the gym that was like our standalone, and I would go and help with the other stuff, and then we would take the money 50-50 from both and kind of do that way. I get paid a little bit more over here, he get paid a little bit more over here, right? So it was a fair arrangement. After about 2.5 years of going into this partnership with these other people, I really couldn't do it anymore. It was a really toxic environment. Like nice people and everything, but the leadership dynamic was really bad, and it was very stifling to me because I wasn't being listened to and stuff like that. I decided to leave, right? I was unhappy. I'd gained a lot of weight. I was just like not making money. It was a shit show of a situation. And my wife was pregnant with our second child. We were just barely scraping by, even though I was running this like $20 million a year business, or running all the sales for it, right? I was making like an 80 grand a year salary, which for 2 kids, it's just not enough, right? So then what I did is I decided to leave that and come back to focus on the singular gym so I could grow that, because now I had a lot of tools in my tool belt to be able to grow something, because I'd run the sales for so many gyms all around the country. So I knew exactly what to do, and if I could just do it, I knew I could make a real success of it. I came back and I was told, hey man, if you're gonna come, like I don't need you anymore. I've been running this thing for 2.5 years without you. If you come back, I'm gonna shut it down. And they had intentionally not re-signed a new lease for a new premises so they could use it as leverage against me, because he knew that I always cared about the people and all that kind of stuff. Now I don't know how manipulated or calculating it was, but this is the perception that I had at the time. I don't really care in hindsight at all. It was like the best thing that ever happened to me. So I had to sit down and try and negotiate some sort of exit to be able to get some sort of remuneration, because now I'd let go of everything. I had a 2-year-old and I had a pregnant wife. We had no income, no savings, and this all happened in the space of a week. And so I sat down with my wife and we had like $4,000 in the bank, and we were like, what are we gonna do now? Because our rent was $1,500 a week at the time, and we had $4,000 and no income, right? So I cold called like all the gyms that I could think of. And then I was like, hey man, like everyone knew that I was good at sales because I'd done so many. So I was like, hey, I'll be your sales guy. I started off as commission only, then I started on a small base plus commissions. And then I started doing really well at it. Like these weren't hard, I'd done these sales. I could do these sales blindfolded at this point. Yeah, and then that started to really progress and snowball. After a little while, I had like 6 or 7 gyms that I was doing the sales for personally. And then I reached out to James, who was the manager of one of the gyms, and we'd done a bunch of stuff together and all that kind of good shit. And I was like, hey man, do you want to come on and be a sales guy for me? He was like, no, but I will be your business partner. And I was like, that's fair, right? Right? And that's James, right? Who's business partner at Sales Sniper. Yeah, and then from there, we progressed from gyms to in Australia to gyms in the UK, Australia, US. At one stage, I was doing the sales for like 7 or 8 gyms myself in all different countries. So I'd literally get up at like 3 or 4 a.m. I would do sales until like 11 p.m. and I would like just timeline out all the different time zones so I could hit peak times, because there's like a 2-hour period where you can dial and get good pickups. So I would like literally all throughout the day, I had my little schedule of like when is like 5 to 7 p.m. all over the world, and I would just call different leads in all those different areas, right? So I'd make sales. Then all of a sudden, like we started making a lot of sales. Like I was doing like 60 sales per gym per month, killing it. Not making much money because I was making like $20 a fucking sale, right? Like not exactly killing it financially, but making more money than I'd ever made before. Not taking really much of it, just kind of paying the bills, but like putting that towards infrastructure and staffing. We gave James a wage so he could leave his job. And then from there I did an ad. And I was like, hey, do you want to, sick of being a PT, but you want to learn how to be a sales guy from home and, leverage your time better essentially? And one guy answered that ad, and that was Jimmy, who's still a sales guy here today. He's our head sales trainer within Sales Sniper, right? The marketing agencies for the gyms contacted me like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? These guys, usually gym owners can't close a goddamn door, right? let alone sell consistently. So they were like, all of a sudden, like their turnover for fitness marketing people's businesses turnover is really, really bad, because gym owners, and if you're watching this, you guys fucking suck at business. Just terrible. Like I was around business owners, gym owners for a long time, terrible business owners for the most part. They just think like trainers, right? They don't think like business owners, and they don't really put any effort into sales. I've trained a lot of them, they don't really try. Maybe you're not like that, but maybe you are. They were like, man, if you can sell for the gyms that we market for, then we will keep these clients. So these guys were like throwing leads. Like I'm talking throwing. And I made the mistake of saying yes to everything. And at one point we had so many gyms that we were doing sales for. I think I had about half the sales staff that I needed. And then I quickly saw that like the delivery wheels were falling off, right? So I had to like shut down a bunch of those gyms so I could be like, fuck, if I let this ride any longer, I'm gonna piss people off, I'll ruin the name of the company, et cetera, et cetera. Did that, kind of fixed it back up, found some sales guys, trained them up. That's where I got Marco on board. For those of you who don't know, Marco quit day one because of an integration error with a spreadsheet. He fucking pussy, right? But that's a story for another day. Anyway, we convinced him to stay on. And then he started selling for gyms, so it was me, it was like 4 or 5 of us. And then from there, one of the marketing companies asked me to do their sales. Right? And so I was like, oh, okay, I can probably sell it. I know gym owners back to front. I've been selling them into this done-for-you service, so selling them into done-for-you marketing, whoa. So selling them into a done-for-you marketing is a bit of a no-brainer. And so it was a $7,500 product. And he goes, what do you want for comms? I said, I don't know, man, 300 bucks. Now, for those of you who don't know, 10% would be like decent, which would be 750 bucks. I said 300. He kind of chuckled and goes, I'll give you 4. And I was like, okay. And I remember calling James going, this fucking idiot's gonna give me 400 bucks to make a sale. Now I'd probably charge, 1,500 to do that. But yeah, and we still have a relationship with them today. So anyway, I closed my first 14 of 15 calls. So we made a bit of money there. We made like $4.5 grand in like a month, right? And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I was like, I wonder if I can do this thing like as a thing. Like what am I doing? And then I like kind of Googled it and I figured out high ticket closing or high ticket sales was a complete industry that I'd never heard of. And this is in 2018. So I like started Googling shit and I was like, man, high ticket sales, like what is this? And it was like Dan Locke and all these dudes. And I nearly bought Dan Locke's course, but I couldn't afford it. So anyhow, I was like, I'll just figure it out. And then I saw a sales mentor was doing this $97 thing, traffic and funnels. I did that. It was really no training, but it was like a good competition. And just before that, I'd gone onto all these Facebook forums and I was like, man, I want to find more of these gigs that can pay me like $300, $400, $500 a sale. And I found this business coach named Barry. And I did an interview with him because he put up a post saying he's looking for closers. It's $2,000 a sale commission. And I was like, what the f***? Selling gold nuggets. It was a $25,000, $30,000 business coaching package. And I did the interview and I thought it went really well. Just ghosted, right? I was like, shit. And so what I did is I just kept pestering this dude, like pestering. And then I went, okay, man, how much does it cost you to get somebody on a sales call? And he said, it cost me 400 bucks. And I said, I will give you $400 for every person I don't close that I get to a sales call. And he was like, well, I can't really say no to that. And your follow-up is fucking relentless. So I got on the account. I made 6 sales in the first week, made 12,000 bucks. I called James and I was like, hey, James, we don't sell fitness anymore. We're just gonna do this. And that is where Fitness Sales Sniper went away and Sales Sniper became a thing.
What's up?